Hi, we're going to look at and discuss the tonality of the 7 modes. Now, when we say tonality, we are talking about, does a mode sound more major? Does it sound more minor? Why does it sound more major or minor? Why would some modes have a diminished feel and things like that? But first of all, I'm assuming you do know the mode shapes. So I'm assuming that you have in the past learned, for example, the Ahonian. And in the same key, obviously, so C major, we go to D Dorian. But I'm not going to go through all of those modes now. If you need to know them, let me know and I'll send you the video link to teach you those modes. We're going to look at why they get related to major or minor tonalities. That's our function today. Okay, now before we go anywhere, I need you to please play the following for me. Okay, it's going to sound like this. What you just heard was the C major arpeggio. I'll play it through again. My middle finger, finger 2, is starting at the note C, which is fret 8. And I'm going to talk you through this so you can definitely know this arpeggio shape. It's only over 1 octave. Fret 8. Next string, fret 7. Same string, fret 10. And then jump down a string to the octave. And I'd also like you to take it back as well. Back to fret 10 up on the 5th string, back to fret 7, and onto the root. So if you play through with me, let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. What you've played is the C major arpeggio. In other words, it's the notes that make up the chord C major. So if I was playing a C major chord, for example, it would sound like this. And you can hear those are the notes that make up the chord. We've got that. Don't forget that. That we're going to refer to as the major shape. So we can move it. In other words, if I take this scale, or arpeggio, and I do this, and I simply move it 2 frets up to D, but I do the same sequence. I've got a D major. If I take it 2 frets further to fret number 12, which is E, I've got the E major arpeggio. So this shape that you've learned is movable. It can be played from the 5th string too. This is F. But if you play it from the 4th string, it's going to change. We're not going there right now. We spoke about mode tonalities. So let's just refresh so far. Our initial goal to learn the major arpeggio, which is this sequence of fingers. Make sure you can play that before you go any further. Next up, the minor arpeggio. Now, that's going to sound like this. Classically, they refer to the minor arpeggio as a more darker or sadder sort of sound, more of an angry sound. So your major is your happy and positive, and your minor that I played now, they refer to as your sad or dark or angry sort of tone, if you want to call it that. Let me take you through it. Starting on C again, just so we can compare C minor to C major. Starting on fret 8, fret 11, same string. Then we're going to go to the 5th string, fret 10, 4th string, fret 10 again, and back. So slow motion. And again, like the major arpeggio, we can shift it or move it. So I can play it, for example, from the 5th string, fret 12. This is A, and now I've got an A minor. If I play it from fret number 2 at the top of the F, for example, I've got an F sharp, because it's F sharp minor. Okay, so what have we learned so far? Let's recap as we go along. We've learned 2 arpeggio shapes. We've learned the major shape. We've learned the minor shape. We can hear the difference. And if we go into the theory, the major consists of the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes of the major scale. And you can hear that. Here's the major scale. Just taking it over 1 octave. And if I focus on notes positions 1, 3, 5, octave, I can hear those notes inside the scale. And you can hear how they relate to each other. So basically, the C major arpeggio is built from the C major scale. The same way if I had to play an E major scale, that whole 1, 3, 5 story would be the same again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then obviously the octave. Okay. If you're not sure about this, let me know, because I want us to be really, really clear about this. So what we've learned, major shape, we can move it, and then the minor shape is from fret 8 as well, from C minor. You can hear it's got a different sound to it, eh? And that is what they call a flattened third. Now you could also play this like this, but that's quite a wide stretch. It's not really my favorite go-to, and I'm probably sure lots of other guitarists won't like it as well. But it's important to know, because when you go from the major to the minor, we say you flatten the third. Some of you might know about that already, that maybe you've studied a bit about chords. But your major sounds like this: 1, 3, 5 octave, and your minor flattens the third note, which is tapping there. So your minor goes flattened third, normal fifth, and octave. Flattened third, major third. Okay. So to recap, I'm going to recap the whole way through so you get a good understanding. Your major consists of the first, third, fifth notes of the major scale. Octave is optional. And the minor consists of the first flattened third, which gives that minor, darker, deeper, sad sound. Fifth and octave is optional. Okay. Now to avoid that stretch, we take this note and we stick him here, and that's why we play the minor shape like this instead. And that's what we started with. Guys, you cool with that so far? You know your major shape, you know your minor shape, and then eventually we're going to learn the diminished as well. And the diminished flattens both the third and the fifth. So we know that the minor goes 1, flat 3. There's the fifth that wants to be played, but the diminished says, please flatten me. So I go from there to there. And there's a flattened fifth. Flattened third, flattened fifth. 1, flat 3, flat 5, and octave. And that gives a very dark sound. Sounds out of tune, eh? Not cool. But if you use that as a passing, check this out, then it sounds quite cool. So basically, music creates tension, resolves or releases tension, but that's a study for another time. Okay, let's get back to the original goal now. We've learned your major, we've learned your minor, and you've learned your diminished. And the reason why I'm playing this over and over is to create that sound into your head, that you're familiar with how the different modes or how the different arpeggios sound, how the major sounds, how the minor with a flattened third sounds, how the diminished with a flattened third and a flattened fifth sounds. So you get to recognize how it works. And now we go to the modes. Okay, we're going to start with the Ionian. That's position number 1. And I'm only going to play it over 1 octave. Okay, I played a bad note there. Let's do it again. Now, the major scale is the Ionian mode. They're one and the same. It's like saying 6 and half a dozen. There's no difference. Ionian mode is the major scale. It's a point of reference. So if you've got a major scale, it makes sense that your notes 1, 3, and 5 must make up the major chord or major arpeggio. Remember, arpeggios are chords. They're the notes in the chord that make up the chord. The same way again that if we played, for example, C major, you can hear this. Listen to this. There's my C. I'm sure if you recognize that one. You can hear the notes are the same. Okay. Next up, the Dorian. The Dorian is going to look and sound like this. It's going to be played from fret 10 because I want to keep it in the key of C. Going to go like this. And if I play it in the starting note of C, it's got different notes there. So we're going to keep everything in the key of C for now, just so that they all contain the same notes. We can go more into modes later. So one more time, fret 10, 10, 12, 13. next string 10, 12, and we finish off with 9, 10, 12. Okay. Now we want to know, is this a minor related scale? Has it got a minor tonality or a major tonality? It all depends on the arpeggio. Now think about this. My first note is here. My third note is there. Hey, this is the same start as the minor arpeggio. Let's have a look at the fourth and fifth. There's my fifth note. So what we can do is we can say the Dorian has a minor tonality because you can build a minor arpeggio from the same starting position. So if I was playing in a totally different key and I was playing a G sharp Dorian, for example, okay, that would actually have a G sharp minor feel to it, because this here, that minor arpeggio shape that you've learned fits into the mode itself. We got that. Okay, so we're looking to find out those three arpeggio shapes. How do they relate to the first note of each mode? And that's what we're covering here. Next up, Phrygian. Phrygian would start on E. It should look like this. Got a nice flattened second. There's the third. There's the fifth. And this is interesting. Your first, third, and fifth are the same first, third, and fifth of the minor shape. So once more, your Phrygian is also minor tonality. So it's not the minor scale, but it's got a minor sound to it. In other words, you can build an E minor chord from the E Phrygian scale. The same way if you're playing in a different key and you had A Phrygian, you can build an A minor chord. We got that. Not so difficult, eh? Hopefully. Okay. Next up, we're going to go to the Lydian. Lydian's going to start on F. I could also play it lower down. I'm just going to do it higher up so it's better in focus for the guitar. And it's going to sound like this. That's what they call a sharpened fourth or sharpened 11th, but that's not the study of this. We're trying to sit and attach major or minor. And let's look at the first, third, and fifth notes. First note. Second, third note. That looks more like the major arpeggio. Fourth, fifth. So what we've learned here, Lydian is major related because you can use a major arpeggio shape from it. Mixolydian's next. Same scenario, you can see the shape there. Now that's also got what they call a dominant tonality, but later when we get into quartets and we go more in depth onto each specific mode, then we'll break that down. For now, Mixolydian has got a major tonality because the G major arpeggio is built perfectly from the G Mixolydian mode. Next up, we're going to go to fret 5 for the Aeolian. Now the Aeolian's other name is the natural minor scale. So your natural minor scale is the Aeolian. We do get a harmonic minor and a melodic minor. Study for another day, not today. So the name of the scale gives itself away, and you can quite easily see. There's your minor arpeggio. And you can see the notes sitting inside there quite nicely. Okay, now last up is the Locrian, which is going to start at fret 7. Remember, all the studies over here are in the key of C, so we're also looking at all the chords you can build in C. And that's going to go... And that's got the minor third, but it hasn't got that note. It's got this note. And remember we said earlier, that's your diminished, and we said it makes a cool passing note. I'm not going to go there now. But your Locrian is diminished tonality, which is basically a minor sound with a flattened fifth. So it's definitely not a major sound because it's got no raised third. In fact, the third and the fifth have been lowered, which just means we're sort of minoring, in a sense, the third and fifth notes. Guys, if you've got any questions on this, please don't hesitate to ask me. I really want you to understand this, because if we don't understand this, the next step about quartets and more isn't going to make sense. Hope you have an awesome day. Let me know if you have questions, and take care. Bye.